to Chantel so
Yeah.
magically.
It was actually really interesting because I kind of assumed most people had been doing something with this, and a lot of them had not. So, you know, yes, good question. Where were they from? I mean, Clemson obviously had been doing it, but then they're not doing it anymore. But there were typical people from CCA.
All com studies people.
Yeah, com studies.
Is this,
kind of what advice.
this isn't the NC?
No,
Oh,
CCA, did we say?
Carolina's communications.
No. Okay, Carolina's.
Yeah.
I'm still.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Be careful, more acronyms with them.
Yeah, one interesting thing that, I don't know if it's interesting to me, I found is that, so ours is a very, very straightforward, not pretty platform. Okay, we're just getting this stuff up there, and so it's kind of ultimately.
They're using a claim.
We're using a claim, so it's ultimately going to look like this. It's just going to have our 3 folders, and in each of the folders, they're going to have their video, their peers, and their sort of like black.
Reminds me of Blackboard, the
The
way that
Blackboard.
it's like just a.
And their
yeah.
their reflection. So it's not going to look pretty, but what's interesting is, of course, they've already loaded up their any old bag speeches, which are the first ones. But what I've found is I've had to do it like this and get all of their speeches in one folder. I originally was going to have them create their own folders and do it for every speech, but then we can't share them without a whole lot of hullabaloo about.
Can't you put them in groups?
I can, and I'm going to do that for the informative speech. But ultimately, I want them to get back to the screen that I just was at. Like, I want them to create their own. I want them, like, each student to have something that looks like this, that says any old bag, and then their critique of that, and their peer comments of that, and then informative, and then, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or they could do it in one folder to just say my portfolio and then do it that way. But there are a couple of issues. One, once you put things in there, you can't change the order. So we have to do it, and then later we're gonna have to go back and load them up.
That you can't?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Anyway, you can either do it chronologically, but you can't like change the order. You can't drag and drop. So we have to be very strategic about how we load them up. And then the second thing is, and I know you can't see this yet, but it's really cool. Once you have the video, you also have all the peer critique comments beside it that are time stamped. But right now, the platform doesn't have the ability to copy over the comments. So I can copy over the video, like once they upload the video to the big group one. But then we're gonna have to somehow download the comments and re-upload them in a different format.
So each portfolio
Yeah.
is private, they cannot share their portfolio?
They can, but I'm just worried about, okay, creating that and then sharing that, and then in terms of the order of things, it was just gonna be easier for them to upload to one space to get access to their peers, because it's all online, so.
So every peer, everybody in the class critiques each peer?
No, well, they have certain people on, and I can put them in groups, and I will for the informative, but for the annual bag, I wouldn't be able to see everybody, just because it's an intro speech. But just little things like that, so I'm trying to figure out in my mind, you know.
So my question would be,
Yeah.
if they have a portfolio individually, and they're within a group, they can't take their individual one within the group, have the group critique it, and then they're pulled out of that group at the end, take them off?
We can, it's just we have the same issue of the peer critiques are not, the peer comments are not going with the video when we copy them. We're gonna have to
Can there be a
download
separate category?
Yeah, there's gonna have to be, I'm gonna have to re-upload it as a separate, like, peer comments. Like they'll have to take it and format it as a paper, I think, and say peer comments for speech one.
Yeah, part of the technological reason for that, and you know, it's interesting, you never know about this stuff until you use it on the ground, but it makes sense, that quirk makes sense. And the reason is one of the big selling points of Acclaim that is a legit neat thing that they have is the comments are in 3 different media. They can be audio, they can be video, or they can be text. And
They can draw.
oh yeah, right, and they can draw, because I kind of lump that in with text, right? They can do, you know, a smiley face or something. But
We're just doing slide, actually.
yeah, I know, I can imagine. But part of the cost of that is that there is within a claim, there's a different platform they're using for the production and collection of, I would imagine, text, freehand, audio, video. And so I would imagine that the import and export thing is just one type of technology, and then you've got this other stuff that it can't pull in. You know, it's like, it's like the very, very common thing where you've got multimedia going with a PowerPoint file, and you try to use it somewhere else, and your PowerPoint comes up fine, but none of the multimedia works, right? It's because unless you actually embed it directly in each slide, all that PowerPoint pulls is PPT or PPTX files, not WAV or WMV or other sorts of multimedia files. I might have a workaround for you on ordering items.
Okay.
You can rename individual items, file names for them, right?
Yes.
Can you arrange the items alphabetically?
Right now, my only options are most recent or oldest.
Never mind.
It's a good idea. Maybe I can talk to Axel about that.
Because I'm thinking they may do that for the users just to make it simpler. Because if you think about it, I mean, renaming the files so that they arrange carefully.
That
Remember,
makes it simpler that you can't move things around.
oh yeah, well, I mean, it's a standard
Yeah.
sort of software and technology move, right? The simpler you make the technology, the fewer the features are. I mean, that's almost
Well,
like
so
a
then
law.
it's simpler on the design end, but not necessarily on the user end.
Well, it doesn't do as much on the user end, but that's an advantage for a lot of people.
For a lot of users, it is.
I mean, look, my students don't understand how to name a file. I actually have to put paragraphs on every assignment explaining how to name a file and how to upload a file. I actually had to link to help videos on Blackboard for how to submit a paper on Blackboard and how to download a graded paper on Blackboard. So, I mean, the price you pay is if they have that option. Now the students are going to have this other layer of strategic thinking of, oh, well, let's see. I can't just name them, you know, speech 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if I have a whole bunch of different items, guess what the first item is going to be? Item 10. We all know that's it, right? Yeah. Because they won't be naming it. It looks at significant digits, you know, and it doesn't look at just I think he doesn't understand whole numbers versus significant digits. So speech 10 is going to be first, unless the student names their first item speech 01.
That's
So-
what Blackboard does that. There's a
Yeah.
component in Blackboard that, I don't, discussion boards maybe? Like
Yes.
it
Yeah.
continues to move the 10 out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's just part of the whole programming language thing. It would be very easy for them to change that, but almost nobody does that.
But don't use a number and use just wording.
Yeah.
You know, use intro speech, bag speech. It seems to me
Check with
that's,
Axel about that, because
Yeah.
it would be easier on their end, because they wouldn't have to engineer.
because what I do is I just, when I can't do something like that, I just give it a B, C, D type of thing. And then that takes care of the 10, 9, 8, 1, 2, 3. That's what I do, so that it keeps it all in order.
Anyway, that's where I
Interesting. What about, are students getting any experience with testing the support of a claim?
am. Somewhat. They just loaded these up Monday, so, I mean, if they do something. Our biggest issue right now is they're still figuring out whether they should put it in a folder or they should create their own folder, which they decided to do. So we've got about 8 of them that have their own folders. But they haven't had too much trouble, I don't think.
One of the things we're going to
as long as they're
feed out to all you folks toward the end of the semester is the student feedback surveys.
Yeah.
And one of them is going to be, you know, did you need support, how good was it? And by the way, we're targeting the questions to the students in ways where they won't be a reflection on any of the instructors, because we want to be very careful of not doing anything that might influence course evaluations in any way. So, yeah.
Bless you.
He's okay. Okay, Brandy,
Yeah.
hopefully you've been able to take a couple of breaths since the last time you were, because you were about this deep in work and projects the last few times, so.
Yeah. Where are we at? Well, I mean, a lot of the things that you all are doing now, we get at the beginning of the semester with introducing it to them. And so at this point, I mean, their e-portfolio is pretty much their responsibility. Because well, I'm not going to say we, well, no, Joanna does the same thing. They get a grade on their assignments themselves, and then they get a separate grade for the e-portfolio as a whole. So they get grades as they go on the actual assignments, and then they can make the changes based on the feedback before they put it into their e-portfolio. So for my class, now for Jonda, I think she may have deadlines when they have to have things up. For my class, it's really, there are certain assignments along the way that I've built in for them to do along the way. That's part of that go into the e-portfolio, but when they put them up, is up to them. As long as they have them up by the deadline, which is reading day, that's up to them when they choose to work on it and post the final product and things like that. So, because they turn the assignments in ahead of time to get the separate individual grade. Because I didn't, I mean, for first year students, their critical reflection papers, I mean, we have to do a lot of, there's a lot of grammatical errors. They can't write in that sense. So just a lot of the feedback is don't use run-on sentences, and don't start your sentences with and don't write in text language, and all those things that they just.
Don't capitalize random words.
Yeah, don't capitalize random words.
That's something
Don't use
I haven't
contractions.
seen
Yeah.
until like the past year or two.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just sort of like, yeah, just,
everything turns into a proper
just like
Yeah.
random words,
Yeah.
capitalized. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everything's a proper noun, or everything is somehow a contraction. Like, why are you using contractions?
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. But yeah, but this is what we deal with in a lot of the FFL classes. You'll have a handful of students who you can tell they've probably gone to a school, or they were on a track that they've learned how to write a paper. But most students just, it's, I mean, because the subject matter is not difficult, so a lot of it is flow and, I mean, basic things that you learn in ninth grade English, like how to put a paper together, but a lot of students don't have that yet. And so we do, it's a lot of that, and so we give a lot of feedback, like intense feedback with that, and so we tell them to make changes before they put it up. Now, if they don't make the changes, then points will come off of the final e-portfolio, and so that's what they've been told. So, you know, we give you the feedback, you get a grade on your actual paper, and then when you put it into the e-portfolio, there's another set of points that goes towards the e-portfolio itself. So like intermediate, like during the class, I don't necessarily monitor all the e-portfolios. I will go and check here and there and see if any, where people are and things like that. Part of the photo project that I have them do is to make them go in and put the photos up, but some of them have gotten behind on that. But again, as long as you have about 15 photos by the end of the semester, they get credit for that too, outside of the overall e-portfolio grade. So a lot of it is is them keeping up with it themselves, but they do the assignments along the way, and the individual assignments have due dates throughout the semester that they get feedback on. So our trouble, well, not our, I don't know what Joanna's trouble is, but my trouble is is making sure that I'm getting their assignments back to them in enough time so that they can actually have the time to do those things. And so, we make sure that they get their critical reflections back in enough time before the next paper comes out, so they can make the adjustments. But just the other small assignments in between that we didn't normally have for the class before, trying to make sure that we get those out. And so for some of those assignments, it's really a matter of those assignments are not structured papers. Those assignments are, so one was like their academic plan, and they had to list, list, because they were getting ready for registration, list the classes that you're planning on taking next semester. And so that's the tab under their educational plans and goals. There's gonna be a tab for the academic plan. They have to put their classes, things like that. So those are sort of kind of things that if you do it, you get the credit for it.
Yeah.
It's not in any particular paper format. It's sort of kind of bullets and you answer the questions in that format, just so that that we know that they're working on looking at classes and who's your advisor, that you found out who your advisor is, because a lot of them don't know that either.
Just this morning, I had one of the students wandering around the hall.
Yeah, it's just, you'd be amazed the basic stuff that you need to survive as a student that they have no clue about. So a lot of the smaller intermediate assignments in between their papers are those types of things. You know, visit career services and post your edited resume, things like that. So yeah, most of they're maintaining and managing their e-portfolio. I don't micromanage them on that. It's either do it and have it done by the deadline, or you just won't get the points for it.
And of course, this is delivery through Google Sites.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning, did you folks work with the DMC, or how did they kind of?
Yeah, Armando came in on the third day of class. Yeah, that was third day of class. He came in, showed the e-portfolios, how to go about doing it. We reserved the lab, and they all had their computers in front of them, logged in. Some of them actually set it up as they went because he was showing them step by step. And then, of course, they had about 2 weeks to get the template up, and that was a separate grade for that. So they had to have all the tabs, and that was that. Excuse me. On the Blackboard, if you see the thing, the sort of kind of the outline that I posted, that's what they received the day that Armando came in, so they could know how many tabs they would have and all those kind of things. Now, there are people that afterwards, although he walked them through step by step in class that day, afterwards I would get emails, I don't know how to upload this, I don't know how to upload that, I don't know how to do this. And then I would direct them to either the help function in Google Sites, or I would direct them to, which one is it? DMC or I would direct them to both. Because it depends.
Depending on
If you don't know how to upload
right.
pictures, but if you don't know how to put tabs, it's two different things. So it just depends. But they have the handout. They knew where it was. I still get questions in class about stuff, but I told them I'm not the expert. It took me like 3 days to figure out how to get my picture up in the size that I wanted it. My portfolio that I have for them, so I just tell them to go over there because they're the experts. They can sit down with you and they can walk you through it. I won't be able to help in that area. So, and I don't have the time to help them in that area. So, but they need to learn how to utilize those services anyway.
That's true, and of course, part of that with us is, I think we need to be pretty strategic about what to offload from us to the real experts in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually, and I'll credit maybe due to going through FFL, since there's been a good bit of focus on services at the university.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm finding that gradually, more students are starting to recognize, oh yeah, there's a place that can help with that.
Yeah.
And I think the more they do, that early on, then
Mm-hmm.
they'll be a good resource. And then of course, DMC and DAC are going to be, shorthanded.
So that should hopefully, so yes, I am interested to see how their final product ends up, seeing that we're not micromanaging them along the way.
Yeah.
We'll see on the last day how everybody puts all their stuff in. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how it turns out. But that's where we are so far. At this point, a lot of conversation is trying to figure out if I want them to put their presentations up or not. I think for like their group presentations that they currently do, because it's based on the first year summary, they'll probably upload those. But like for the personal success plan presentations, some students share a lot of personal information, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna have them I think I might just give them the option. If you want to put it up, feel free. If not, that's okay too. It's not a required part of the portfolio, but if they want to store it somewhere, so they can be comprehensive, they can.
If the presentations, those video files, or?
Yeah, the group presentations I record with the flip from the library.
May it rest in peace.
Yeah.
Company doesn't exist. It was
Yeah, and we can't get anything from them.
Google
anymore.
Google bought the company and then killed it. Yeah,
Yeah, so,
because they didn't want the competition.
You can't even buy batteries for
Yeah.
it, so
yeah, so,
they're useless when they die.
so their project success plans, I normally don't record those, but if they want to, I mean, nowadays people just do everything with cell phones. If they want to do that, they can, but I probably won't require it. But that's where we are. Yeah.
Brandy, I'm curious about your load of assignments. Have you found that adding on, that you've been able to integrate into the pre-existing assignments, or have you had to add a lot of components that were not in existence before, and how are you handling that in terms of,
Yeah.
doing all of this for 1 credit?
Yeah, it's 2 credits actually.
2 credits, sorry.
2 credits, yeah, but I have integrated a lot. So most of the assignments, so for instance, they have to have 3 critical reflection papers for any FFL class. So instead of making those critical reflection papers about the liberal arts education and what does that mean for you and your major and the courses you're taking, that first critical reflection paper was their About Me page. So we took things that they were already doing in the class and made it their critical reflections and added pieces in there. And then that's why I said the intermediate assignments, like the academic plan, those are just small things to the, really, if you did it, then you get the credit for it. So it's not taking a long time to really grade it. And then we have, well, at least for me and Jolanda, we have a grad intern or her grad assistant, and we have a PAL. So for smaller things, they can sort of keep track of those things, but like for papers and things like that. So I still have the 3 papers that I grade. My class always did a resume and informational interview, so that's going to be their 3rd critical reflection instead of it being a separate assignment. And then we just sort of built it into what they were already doing. But again, we did model some of the pieces after the IUPUI. And then at a conference last weekend, Jolanda, that's someone from IUPUI, who informed her that they were moving away from their e-portfolio system. So, yeah.
Clemson and what's it, IEP?
IUPUI.
IUPUI.
Which is so
They're
interesting,
down.
because it's interesting, because they, I mean, their process is very comprehensive and has been, I mean, is very well known. But she asked her why, and she said, well, I think part of the problem is sustaining it, and I think a lot of faculty aren't actually using it. So even if the university has the overall platform, if the faculty for those classes are not telling them, so let's say a junior, they use it for their first 2 years because all the faculty are using it, but when they get to their junior year, if they have a class and the faculty member is not requiring them to do those pieces for the e-portfolio for that year, then they're not going to have anything. So they're having a hard time sustaining it. And I think and she also mentioned to her, I can't remember the exact phrase that Jolanda told me, but she was saying that for a lot of the students, I mean, they have this work product. I mean, they have this system that's, or platform that has a work product, but are they using it afterwards? So, I mean, they don't know if they're really showing it to anyone other than us going and looking at it to see, for example.
Well,
Yeah.
and there is that big disconnect because, I mean, the things that we want in an e-portfolio project are rather different
Than what they need. Yeah.
For employment. You know, the prospective employer doesn't really want to see, the
writing process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the process, they don't
But you
care.
know,
They-
backstage.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's this whole, distinction between the process-oriented and the product-oriented e-portfolio that, and part of the mandate for our whole project and all the e-portfolio explorations, the general administrator, not the GA, the Board of Governors, they had in mind something that students could take with them a lot closer to the sort of things you're preparing students for. But particularly if you're piloting this in individual classes, especially early on in a student's academic experience, it's not what you're going to get. Well, speaking of that.
The students, we keep going over, we're developing more, because they start off with, who are they, their profile. That is going to be part of their homepage. So we're doing more of the developmental of, exercises so that they can get to that point. They are going to start putting it all into WordPress. I'm not sure, next semester for PR, which is beside what we're doing for this semester, I'm going to change the platform And I'm going to put a lot of focus on it for a career portfolio, much more so than this semester. So what they're already doing is, like, for example, their story, they're already doing it, but they haven't uploaded anything. So they're doing the pieces of it, they're presenting it, they're doing part of their pitch next week, and then they're going to clean up their story. And I was just telling Lindsay, after next week, I'm gonna give them 2 days to really upload this stuff and get me at least the profile of their story and what PR plan they've already got in there. So that's, and then as I said to you, some number of them, and it's not gonna be a whole lot, which I'll use as my test group, I'm going to send out to professional people. And they agreed to evaluate the portfolios from a PR perspective. The issue I have, which I've talked to you about, Roy, is taking this form and giving it something like this for the professionals, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than trying to deconstruct what this means. So I'm taking these questions and trying to create simple words. For example, each individual section of e-portfolio delivers relevant and necessary information for understanding and application to public relations. Each individual section provides an analysis from each student and connects to the context of that kind of thing. Layout and information are logically presented. I'm trying to get this, but I can't. I'm trying to put something round into square.
Right.
But I'll try to keep as close so that when we look at them, we can maybe use some of, I don't know, even use this same one and then pretend we use this one.
Well, but that raises an interesting question.
To
'Cause,
do
you
better,
know,
and back to
Yeah.
students, that would be more
Yeah.
comprehensible.
Oh, sure.
Well, I mean, we've got now this disconnect on a second level that I don't think any of the projects throughout the system are aware of. And that is, we know about the disconnect between the process and product-oriented e-portfolios, the academic e-portfolio and the professional e-portfolio, okay? Or in the e-portfolio literature, they call it, the process portfolio and the showcase portfolio. But then there's another aspect, and that's the transferability of the evaluation process. I mean, we have no idea if e-portfolios that we score as 4s across the board on our rubrics are going to also qualify as high-quality e-portfolios when other eyes with other kinds of priorities look at them. And if they don't, or if we don't know if they will, then the whole objective of giving students something portable that will help them get a job, which is quite frankly all the Board of Governors understands, that remains at best a mystery. Or, we find out that the professionals, we ought to show those professional evaluators our rubric. And
No.
Well, no, not for the evaluation, but just ask them what they think of it, right?
Oh, I know what they'll tell you.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know what it means. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
I was
So,
thinking
I mean, I can tell you without even showing to them, because it means not a whole lot to me.
Yeah.
So why should it mean anything to someone who's practicing in the field?
I was just gonna say, I think tax data though would be helpful
Oh, yeah.
to maybe even submit. I mean, just sort of,
Oh,
we didn't have, okay,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
say, here's what the professional people are saying about these same portfolios.
It'll give us a little bit of an insight as to the whole idea of, are we talking about this, seamless thing that moves from the classroom into the workplace? And I think there are a lot of, assumptions made about that one way or the other. But it would be great to have, even if it's just, a handful of
Oh, yeah.
of evaluators.
Well, I'm not giving them all of them either. They're only going to do maybe 3. I
3,
cannot
yeah.
give them 28 and say,
Yeah.
do it, because these people are busy. If I give them 3, I'm really pulling,
Sure.
pushing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now maybe I could give the same 3 to 3 different people, or 3 different ones. It would be interesting to give the
Yeah.
same 1 to 3 different people.
Yeah, sort of what we're doing, yeah.
We're gonna give them good ones or not good
I may just do it randomly.
Random thing.
It's like, like the gap writing.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm terrified of giving them what I've got.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's the other thing, you want to be kind of judicious because you don't want to
No, I'm
feel
looking
good.
at people who are interested in PR, first of all,
Right.
because not everybody in the class,
Right.
some of them are other majors, and, they're taking it for whatever reason. I may even look at someone who's taking, I don't know if anyone's going to register also for my other course, what crises or anything else.
Mhm.
If they are, then I would like to take those, because I'd like those students to build their crises one and their other coursework on it, which everything relates to PR. So I'm going to see who's doing what and then do it judiciously. No, I'm not just gonna throw them out there. So it may,
The good news for that class is we've been very, very productive at UNCG with manufacturing crises.
but see, those are just my online students, my online are in my PR class, so that won't work until I bring the class back in maybe for a semester.
Yeah.
So next semester, I'm gonna get this much more systematized for a professional environment versus this semester.
It is kind of weird. I almost feel like at the end of this project, I feel like I'm ready to begin it.
That's my point. Well, this is the beta test of
Yeah.
something that's not
It is.
good.
Actually, it's almost an alpha test. Well, I mean, and bear in mind something too, and I mean, not to hold a big stick out there, but believe me, it's out there. I mean, we need to be judicious in the way that we report out on this stuff, because if we just report out totally panning e-portfolios
No,
entirely,
no.
one of the things we've got to bear in mind, just from an administrative standpoint, from what's happening in GA, first of all, if we've got all 4 of these projects that just dump on e-portfolios, let me tell you exactly what the alternative is, because we are going very fast down this road. We had like a half-day meeting with Educational Testing Services last Friday in Chapel Hill. We are going down the road of a single a standardized test for students throughout the whole system, with possibly some degree of a customizable component on each campus. And oh, by the way, who's going to supply the labor for the customized component on each campus? Guess what? It's added to your workload. And what we would be compensated for doing this? Nothing. This is an awesome deal for ETS. What other business can you say, hey, you get your own product, you have to make it and do all the labor, and we charge you for it. Right?
It's a good deal if we can get it.
Yeah.
Well,
Joyce.
I think there's a message, though, that what we can look at, and I don't think it's a negative thing, is that portfolios are valuable, but they're more valuable in this arena than they are in another arena. They can still be tested out, but we want a product that the end user would hire these students with.
Well, I mean, and that's the big takeaway, because one of the kind of interesting things about e-portfolios that is a sharp contrast to the standardized test. I mean, what do students really get at the end of a standardized test? They get a number, right? And a stigma. And that's it.
It's a star, gold star, silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even the portfolios are more beneficial for employers than the standardized test, I would say.
Oh, definitely. I mean, nobody looks at standardized test scores at the hiring level anyway. In fact, we're starting to get more and more skeptical of them even at the graduate school level, you know. One other quick thing too, as far as alternatives to standardized tests, how many things do we have in our toolbox? Does GA and UNC system have in its toolbox? Guess what? We're it. You know, it's weird because the drafts of the process document that's developing in the General Education Council statewide says, you know, to GA and the Board of Governors, well, you need multiple indicators and all this. And then it's like, multiple indicators. How many are we investigating? 2. One qualitative and one quantitative. And I keep pressing for, okay, qualitative. What other mechanisms are out there? You know, what are the other possibilities? And all I get is people shrugging their shoulders. So one of the rationales for moving toward e-portfolios in the beginning is to provide at least something beyond the possibility of, you know, a standardized test. Joyce?
Can I just make one quick point? It seems to me we keep saying, oh, we've gotta get these students technology literate. Well, I keep telling students, whatever you're learning now is gone in 5 years. So what do we teach, what's today or what's in 5 years, which we still don't know? To me, a portfolio value is, it's a progression of understanding different types of because they have to do an infographic. Now, that's a big deal now, but probably 2 years that means nothing, but they could show that they understood at that time how to do an infographic. So I think to get ourselves all tangled up in teaching students all the newest technology is a fool's errand.
It is.
Even doing Facebook or social media is a fool's errand because it's changing. Twitter replacing social media, Facebook.
Yeah, well, and actually, oddly enough, Facebook, well, this is why they bought the company, actually. Facebook's own product displacing Facebook.
Right, so, but I know
Instagram.
Joyce wants her
Yeah.
6 minutes,
That's
but
fine.
that's my
So y'all
point.
just keep
My
talking,
point
it's
is
fine.
that we get so focused on, oh, we gotta teach students technology, and I'm thinking, it's gonna change.
Well, exactly, and this is a very difficult message to get across. That what you are articulating there is exactly the digital literacy message, and this is why it's not talked about as learning technology. The problem is the language and mindset. Well, this is on video, so I can't say it. But the language and mindset of the Board of Governors and other constituencies, when they think of this stuff, they think of a specific technology because they can only think of the example. And the whole idea here is facility with whatever technological tools are out there. The critical thinking skills that are involved, and how do I kind of serve as a self-monitor of content I'm putting on there? What types of content are best suited to what I want to convey, matching, the presentation with your intention. Even on this campus, when I've been, asking faculty about digital literacy stuff, they hear me say digital literacy, and then their answers are very, very specific technological tools. In Brian's school, they operationalize this as, well, they learn tax software, and our students, they're supposed to have very high levels of digital literacy because they have to learn such and such and such and such accounting program.
So what? Yeah,
Yeah.
because in 4 years, that's changed.
Well, and the real question here that's unanswered on a lot of levels, there's a little research that it's just hard to isolate the variables on. Students seem to have, let's say, very good social media skills in one area. Those don't seem to generalize to other types of technologies. And in fact, one of the things I'm wondering is, this rash of random capitalization. Think about it, texting and IMing, and I want to make that distinction because technically speaking, texting is down. However, third-party apps for doing that, which are technically instant messaging, that's where the growth rate is.
That's my point.
Okay, and of course, the question here is, can our students navigate between the ever-changing platforms? But think about it, texting isn't case sensitive.
Right.
I mean, it is if you're one of us, but I mean, no.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, that's what's, yeah, okay.
okay, Joyce.
The way the class is set up, the portfolio stuff is crammed into the last 4 weeks of the semester.
Yes.
So my folks haven't even started picking out the items for their portfolios yet, which is good because I haven't had a chance to write up new instructions for them to use Google Sites since we're changing from Blackboard. But which is bad because if they hit any hang-ups, then we have trouble. Fortunately, in this class, we usually don't hit hang-ups when it comes to portfolios. I've said in the past that I'm a little bit skeptical of the quality of what we're getting, but when it comes to simply picking out stuff and putting it together during their last semester, they have plenty of work to pick from if they've saved anything. We only ask them to have 5 work products. They're at that point where they're just like, I want my degree, tell me what I need to do to get it. These 5 things, an introduction to conclusion, great, I can do that. So that's the only reason why they're crammed into the last month of school model works. So yeah, they'll start picking, they're starting to turn in their lit review assignments down. Oh my God, I need to get caught up in grading in that class. It's
Well,
terrible.
I mean, Brady's point about turnaround is really important.
Yeah, unfortunately, and but again, in that class, like the beginning of it's some discussion boards and things like that, so it ramps up really quietly. But anyway, they just turned in their lit review topics, and so then they'll do the lit reviews themselves and a presentation on that, and then they'll start choosing e-portfolio topics, because we work straight through the exam period, so. So yeah, that's where we're at. A couple more weeks and we'll start choosing items, and then we'll be off to the races.
It's interesting different approaches because we've got sort of the aggregation of everything all at once toward the end, both of you seem to be doing. We've got a more incremental approach, and then we've got things that are in between.
And having now sat through all of this, the next time I do this class, probably next fall, I think we're going to mix it up a little bit more. Because none of us really knew anything about e-portfolios when we wrote this class. So, now we know a lot more. Yeah, exactly, as everybody else does. Now we're ready to start. So I'm gonna go back and rearrange the order of the course a little bit. Like I said, the first few weeks are just topical discussion boards. Because it's an interdisciplinary senior seminar, so it's bringing in things they've learned from their disciplines and applying them to topics. So I think we could do like a discussion board week, and then hey, you're gonna have e-portfolios at the end of the semester, why don't you go and turn in your item selection now? And then back to topical discussion boards for a couple weeks, and just chop it up a little bit more. So I think I'm gonna talk to the boss man and do that, because that's cramming it, what you guys are doing and giving yourselves more time to work on it. It seems like a much better plan than the plan we had when we first wrote this class.
Your course is like a normal 16-week or?
Yeah, it's normal, it's normal, it's not a half semester. We just tried to cram 12 rounds of class.
Okay, I understand you've been busy.
We did.
What in the next
Yeah, I'm going to the bathroom.
5 pounds.
I set
Exactly.
a date. I'm working on
Quick
putting up
thing,
at least 2
let's
more.
hear from
doing
Lindsay
them 4 at a
because
time,
one-
so
one-
5 and
what-
6, I haven't
what we're gonna
really
find out
established a
is,
date yet.
since the funding floodgates finally open,
Otherwise, I'm gonna
what we're looking at in terms of
my own personal
potential
reference, so I'll remember
availability of
the
online
ranks and stuff,
resources
but here's, like I said, a deadline for the next
that
one
might
to
be
be due, and I've only
available
put 2
or-
up there, so I'm still
how-
looking for 2 more to
What
kind of,
can
based
we
on the last
expect
meeting that
from-
you all talked about.
So
I'm still trying to find
the
some to kind of
content
tailor to you
is
guys too.
done.
Gotcha.
I spent yesterday condensing and combining all the stuff that I did. I said stuff. So, yeah, it needed to be condensed, and so I
smell
spent most
TLDR
of,
right there.
most of the morning just kind of.
You are terrible.
Oh, don't you know that acronym?
I don't know that
No,
Oh, this is great,
Yeah.
TLDR, yeah. Too long, didn't read.
Didn't read.
Yeah, and basically,
It's like an executive summary sometimes
Gotcha.
that you'll post.
and actually
Gotcha.
the, in online design, it's like two clicks, you're out.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
if you have to click down twice to read the rest of the content,
You won't read
you start like totally
Right,
losing
biological.
your
So
Okay.
I spent yesterday combining, condensing, grouping, all that fun stuff. So at this point, we have one consultant who is doing all the coding, so the content's done, so now he's gotta put it on the site. So that's basically where we're at, is the content's done, all of the stuff's there, it's all in a file, and he's the one who's most familiar with coding and everything like that, and he enjoys doing it. So
Bless
he's,
him.
yeah, he's really into it. So he's putting it all on the site. At this point, the only thing that's up on the site is frequently asked questions.
So presumably one of the things that we would be able to do in terms of kind of enriching the whole level of support for this is we could just have a link that we could pop on to Blackboard or
That's the
whatever.
plan.
Mhm.
I'm going to, just for his own sake, give it another week, because I
Oh, sure.
mentioned possibly sharing the link today, just so you have it.
Mhm.
And he was not happy with that because he wants it to look
Sure.
nice before it goes up. So, he said he thinks since all the content's done and I've put it together in a Word document for him, so he really, a lot of it is copying and pasting at this point, he thinks he can have it done by, like, through his shifts next week.
Great.
I'm out of town for a conference next week, so that kind of works too, because I wouldn't be able to share that information before next week anyway. So,
That'll work.
that's the goal, is say by like November 3rd that week, to be able to send you guys a link. It is going to be password protected for now.
Okay, well, that was another question, because
So I will send you.
I would really like to, oh, okay, so we just have like one password, so.
Yes.
Perfect,
So
because I want to
this-
share it with A&T too.
The site is password protected, so you'll have a link, and with the link, I will send you, here's the password to access the information.
Great.
It's
Great.
not, no one will have to make an account or anything like
Yeah.
that. But for now, until we figure out, until this project's over and then we eventually integrate it with UNCG's website, we're just gonna have it be
Okay, that's
password
fantastic,
protected.
because then we have a much needed layer of support for A&T support.
Yes.
Because they've lost basically, you know, the peer support, which is something that happens when you have a lot of attrition. So.
But this
anything consistent with
has
the-
taken much longer than I anticipated, but that's, I mean,
It's
with the
UNCG.
quantity of what they're doing, and they can only do it when the hours that they're there. And, you know, so it's like, they'll start on a project, but if they only have an hour and a half shift, how much are they getting done?
Mhm.
And so they're collaborating and they're working together, but there does create some of that disjointedness. And
Sure.
that's why I kind of jumped in yesterday and was like, I have 2 hours, let's make this concise, because this is disjointed all over the
Right.
place, and we need it to be streamlined at this point, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the students really like is just kind of the one-stop shopping where they, you know, just have maybe a landing page they can navigate from, and,
Right.
you know, they don't have to go anywhere else, really.
It's gonna be pretty simple, I mean, it's separated into 4 categories. It's just general information, which has frequently asked questions, what is an e-portfolio, how can I use it basically beyond this class, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Then it's organization, how do you organize your overall e-portfolio? Design elements, so looking at font choices and things like that, and then media choices. So what type of media, how can you use the media to demonstrate your skills, that kind of thing.
Okay, for the statistical part of things, this is the point where my students, you know, I mentioned the horrible S word and their eyes glaze over. But
Where's that graph?
what I'm gonna do is actually just, Chantal and I are gonna do the calculations and everything, report out to you, so that all we're gonna have to do is hone in on the spots where, if we're seeing a pattern of variance, I'm not too worried if we have some outliers in evaluating one particular portfolio, but we're also gonna do as longitudinal as we can get with the number of e-portfolios we have, and see, is there a particular area that shows a pattern of outliers? And a real judgment call for the 2 of us, and I'd welcome any suggestions anybody has, either that you think of right now or later. The judgment call is, you know, how many passes are we going to need to decide either, okay, we have a reasonable level of inter-rater reliability, and we've got benchmarking figures from AAC and U with their rubric. I mean, basically, it's like, at what point do we decide that we declare victory, or, you know, go for, as Richard Nixon would say, peace with honor? You know, an honorable withdrawal, and just say, look, it is what it is, this is the best we can do to reach, you know.
Well, it's like all research, this is just one aspect of it, it's to be continued. I mean, that's all research is, you know.
Well,
it's-
true, but in this particular case, the funding isn't to be continued
No,
from
no, no,
GA.
but you give suggestions
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
additional research into this.
Yeah,
So
because.
maybe have each of us evaluate 2 more portfolios, because we started to
We've-
hone in on our discussions about what we're actually evaluating.
Right.
So we might get better results out of, say, 2 more each.
Yeah,
Those of us who are
and
done for?
Chantel has chosen, I think, what, 3 more
Okay.
that we have
2 so far.
2 so far, okay.
Mhm.
So I think that's what we'll do, and we needed a couple more anyway, kind of as a cushion. I mean, I would think if we're approaching like 8 to 10 sample e-portfolios, at a certain point, you're probably not going to get at that point, you're probably not going to get a dramatic change in the way people are doing evaluations, particularly after the levels of discussion we keep having. I'm not sure I'm not sure what you gain by going over the same sort of ground. I mean, we've noted where ambiguities are, and all that. What this would help with is if we have, one hardliner who is one person or two people who are the consistent major outliers. And then it may, require a little more targeted discussion, but then we would know.
I'd argue we've already hit the piece with honor place. We just need a couple more portfolios to show that no, really we're.
My suspicion is the way that AAC and U got their good intercode reliability. And I can't remember what the numbers are. Chantel, have you looked at that lately?
The numbers for?
For the AAC and U reports for their reliability?
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at this, but it's been a while. But it's not, it is nowhere near, as you might imagine, with an inherently qualitative instrument that's masquerading as quantitative. It's nowhere near what we would expect with, P is less than or equal to 0.05, right? I mean, we certainly don't have the 95%, reliability. I think it's like in the high 70s or low 80s or something, which is they're touting that. And of course, for these sorts of things, that's pretty good. But,
But overall, that's terrible.
well, but overall, again, if you're gonna talk about this as serious institutional benchmarking based on scoring, I mean, the thing is, what Gail Ring told me from Clemson, one of the things that they, it's a pass-fail evaluation at the end, cumulative pass-fail. So, yeah. All right, so, look forward to that reporting out to you in the next few days. And we'll see what more we need to do. Well, there certainly will be a couple more e-portfolios to do, so.